Guys all set?
Yep.
Welcome everyone to Talil's Candidates Q&A for the Town of Port Hawkesbury municipal elections for 2024. I'd like to thank Talil for doing this evening. Talil is sort of thought of as the community channel for Isle Madame, but they've really done an awesome job at covering the whole region. So maybe a round of applause for Talil for doing this. The debate or the content will be available. I think they're live streaming it right now, and it will be on the community stations later in the week. And it will be up on YouTube too, I think. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Maliseet title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. My name is John Willett. I'm past president of the Chamber of Commerce, and for tonight I'll be your moderator and asking folks the questions. We'll begin tonight with the candidates for mayor. Each candidate will be asked a specific question to them in 5 subject areas, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer. And while we don't have clocks posted, I will gesture or ding when there's 1 minute left, and then stop the candidate to move on to the next question. We'll begin by introducing the 3 candidates, and this will be the only time during that we'll permit applause, now and at the end. So first, Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, the current mayor. And then we've got Archie and Jason. All right, so the first area of questions is the area of taxation. So Brenda, you've led the town council through 8 annual budgets. Many voters and former staff have expressed great concern about the state of the town's infrastructure. Do you feel confident about the level of investment in town infrastructure over the past 8 years?
Okay, thank you, John, for the question. I would premise my answer by pointing out that all across our nation of Canada, the municipal infrastructure deficit is huge, between $150 billion to $1 trillion. And it's no less pronounced in the province of Nova Scotia as well. Towns all across our province suffer from a huge infrastructure deficit, and it's something that hasn't happened overnight. It's something that has been compiled over several decades, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons for the infrastructure deficit is that there exists an inequity between towns and their rural counterparts. Towns are responsible for roads, curb, sidewalk, everything underneath the asphalt, whereas the rural counterparts have many of the roads that are funded and maintained and serviced or replaced by the province of Nova Scotia. So when you look at our town of Port Hawkesbury specifically, certainly we have, again, the same kind of infrastructure deficit that many other towns face. And because of the high cost of replacing that infrastructure, it's been a hard job over several decades because of that cost to bring our infrastructure deficit up to par with where it should be. So when our council came in power, and it would have been in 2016, was the first term that I served as mayor, our tax rate as it is and as it had been in previous councils are such that the taxes doesn't sustain the amount of infrastructure needs and replacement and repairs that are required for our town. But I don't think raising our taxes is the answer to try to tackle that infrastructure deficit. The answer really is looking at new revenue generation. The revenue generation through attracting and retaining businesses to town, bringing more housing developments to town, high-density housing and housing builds. These are the kinds of new revenue generation that we need to focus on now and into the future. Our council has been ambitious about trying to tackle some of those infrastructure deficit challenges. We have an ambitious sidewalk plan. We've been working on asphalt. We're replacing our public works building. We're laying down new asphalt at our airport. And it's not just roads, it's all of those other municipal infrastructure pieces too. It's buildings, it's our fire protection. There is a lot of moving working parts when it comes to infrastructure. And it's unfair to expect our council over the past 8 years to tackle decades of infrastructure deficit. We are definitely need to do more, but we need more revenues to be able to do that important work.
Thanks,
you.
Brenda. Archie, your campaign material contains a statement that I think voters would like more details on. What specifically do you mean by work with the provincial governments to expand the town tax base? And do you think that this effort will get support from our neighboring municipalities?
Thanks for the question, John. Yeah, it's, as Brenda alluded to, it's a big problem, taxation and funding for infrastructure and all that stuff that goes into it. And the town of Port Hawkesbury is a service town, and we provide a lot of service for the area. And we have to find a way, lobbying the provincial and federal governments, to be able to reflect that problem we have of surrounding communities, but not have, we have to supply so much services for the heavy industries, and it's the provincial and federal governments that should see that requirement for the town of Port Hawkesbury and help us out for that.
Great, thanks. Jason, as councillor for the past 4 years, you've gone through 4 budgets. One of the barriers to growth of the town appears to be our residential tax rate, especially relative to our neighboring municipalities. As property assessments increase, the town is able to hold the line on tax rates, but residents' actual tax bills go up. Would you consider a reduction of the residential tax rate?
Thanks for the question, John. In the state we're in right now, we can't afford to drop any tax rate. If we drop tax rate, we're going to have to cut services. We hear from the residents as it is that they want more services. We can't supply a service if we don't have the money to supply said service. You're right that the assessments are going up, but what people need to realize is that most of the houses in town are capped. So because it's going up, we're not seeing a full return on the tax rate on the full value of the home, which is fair. There's no way that we could sit here and even consider lowering our tax rate. Right now, the cost of everything is going up. You look at the wages of staff in town, it's going up 2 to 3% a year. Cost of maintaining our vehicles, the cost of fuel, the cost of life in general is going up, and that affects the municipality as much as it does our own households. So right now, I don't see any way, without growing in large numbers, of being able to reduce our tax rate. One thing that may help us is the commercial development zone that we've created, which is going to really attract new business to come into that area. We're able to give them a tax break on the commercial rate for 10 years on a new build or any renovation on an existing building. That tax rate is much higher than the residential rate. So if we can attract more business, have a new revenue stream, then at the very least we'll be able to hold the current tax rate. But like I said, with what we have right now, without growing in large numbers, I don't see a way of growing or lowering the tax rate. And Archie, I do want to ask you a question about the question you just had. And I was wondering the same thing that John asked you. How do we expand our tax boundaries? I can only think of 2 ways. One would be to annex something or amalgamation. That's the only 2 ways I know of expanding our boundaries. Can you explain that?
Most definitely I can explain that. My experience, the last 15 to 20 years working in the paper industry and my union involvement, we've been faced, the paper industry has been faced with a lot of downturns and cuts to the whole industry.
But a paper mill doesn't run the same as a municipality. I'm talking about the town.
So your time's up, so I'm gonna have to move on to the next question, if that's okay.
Where was the
And
notice?
if you've got any, if you want to address it during your time, Archie, you can do that.
Thank you.
So the next area of focus is economic growth, which kind of ties into what we were just talking about with taxation. Brenda, your campaign material outlines many regional efforts to the broader Strait area and growing the regional economy. A criticism that could be leveled at you is that those efforts have not been focused enough on the growth of the town specifically. Do you agree with those concerns? And what might you do differently to focus on the economic growth of the town?
Okay, thank you for the question. So we have historic levels of collaboration with our surrounding municipalities. Many of those partnerships are outlined on my website, voteforbrenda.ca. So for example, we do have a green hydrogen emerging sector. So Richmond County and the town of Port Hawkesbury co-own and operate Land Relate water utility. So we work together on that utility to create an enabling environment for that development to occur. So although it is in Richmond County, it is co-owned and managed by both the town and the county. So we are also working in unison with the county on a offshore wind center of excellence, which we would love to see located at the Port Hawkesbury waterfront. So although these municipal partnerships are important because we are stronger together, we have a stronger voice together when we are working together in this particular emerging industry, it's about creating that rising tide that floats all boats. So there are some certain advantages I think that we can garner as a town. There'll be opportunities around jobs. There'll be opportunities around growth. We are a service sector. For a small population, we are servicing anywhere between 20 to 25,000 people daily. And that is also going to lead to business expansion and business growth because every industry needs small and medium-sized businesses to cluster around that, to support that. And Port Hawkesbury is an excellent proximity to be able to have that opportunity for business development and business growth. So there are lots of advantages to working together on critical files that will benefit our region, and doing it together is something that I think will have a stronger voice with the province when we are doing that. And even for housing, we're working together on a housing not-for-profit. So this housing not-for-profit is a way that we can look at working together to meet our housing needs. We have worked together also with medical healthcare recruitment and retention. Our healthcare zone, Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health, is, we don't have medical healthcare services just in town and just in Richmond County. We share those services together, and people don't see those lines between our municipalities drawn in the sand when it comes to things like healthcare. So there are lots of things that we can do to work together to create that rising tide that will help us on many different fronts. So working together as municipalities, I think, is the way to go.
Thanks. Archie, much of your material on growth is focused on working with other levels of government and industry. As the former chamber president, I know well that our local economy is supported by many entrepreneurs and small business owners. What experience do you have working with small business? And if elected, what would you do to support the growth of this critical part of the Port Hawkesbury economy?
Okay, thank you. Just to finish off Jason's point, as we faced in this whole economic area 10, 12 years ago, the closing of Port Hawkesbury Paper, it was then called New Page. We had a world-class paper machine, and we were looking at losing the whole thing and being sold for scrap for $33 million. And we used some new thoughts on the union side to protect the workforce there, to protect the economy in the Strait area. And that paper mill in Port Hawkesbury is a big economic feed for the whole province and Atlantic Canada, and it was very important to continue that. So there's some ideas out there that we have to expand. We can't rely in one industry towns. We have to expand the area, expand businesses, waterfront development, and tourism, and we've got so much potential here. On the question on dealing with small businesses, my experience as a union president and a shop steward, and on the National Executive Board, we deal with Chamber of Commerce and small businesses, large businesses, and you treat everybody the same. You treat them fairly, equally, and honestly. And I have no issues with dealing with anybody, big business, small business, and it's how you treat people, and you have to treat them with respect.
Thank you. Jason, again on growth, our community has seen a significant increase in the number of newcomers, international students, a growing Filipino community, foreign healthcare workers, refugees. Do you support this population growth, and what specifically have you done over your time as councillor to understand the concerns of newcomers?
Thanks for the question. Absolutely, I support it. And I am part of the Cape Breton Local Immigration Project, the CB-LIP, which is a welcoming committee for newcomers to the area. And what I've done to try to support that is I've been working with developers trying to get housing here for all types. I don't necessarily support taking another 6,000 people into the province, like our Premier just said we shouldn't do, if we don't have housing. Housing is most important before we can grow. Growing and not having a place for people to live is not a healthy situation. And if we can get the housing, and I refer to Prela Homes that are doing the 80-unit development. Council worked very hard with him for a couple of years. I've spent a lot of time with them, helping them along the way. So the way we support growth in the newcomers is exactly the Cape Breton LIP. We organize welcome events over at the playground. We've done 2 of them so far. And trying to get developers like Mr. Carroll to build more housing developments. And I'll go back again, Archie. You still haven't answered the question of how do you expand those boundaries? We have an MGA that tells us what our boundaries are. I would like to know how we go outside the MGA. I understand in a paper mill, it's a little bit different. You have union contracts. I've dealt with union contracts for 15 years. I was the vice president of a construction local of 26,000 members. I get that part of it. I want to know how you plan to expand the tax boundaries of Port Hawkesbury. There's 2 ways to do it, and I'd like to know which way you would like to go with that.
Thanks, Jason. The next area of conversation is Reeves Street. Not at all controversial.
Oh, that's so easy.
You know, we've got a plebiscite coming up that's part of the municipal election. So the first question on Reeves Street is to Brenda. Reeves Street has become a controversial project, with many expressing opposition to the changes. What responsibility do you take that this issue has become so controversial, and what would you have done differently that may have prevented people from getting so entrenched in their views?
Well, to start, John, I don't know if anybody wants me to have been talking about Reeves Street any more than I already was, because it's certainly a big topic of conversation over many, many years, and certainly during my time as in the last 8 years as mayor. And I would, I guess, just to kind of backtrack a little bit in terms of what Destination Reeves Street was, it was a huge undertaking, and it wasn't just something that was created by our council. It was based on studies and plans, a plan that was commissioned by the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce and the town of Port Hawkesbury about revitalizing and transforming our main street to do precisely what we're talking about here this evening. How do we grow our revenues so that we can tackle our infrastructure needs, so that we can tackle our community needs, our municipal services needs? So revitalizing and transforming Reeves Street is about making sure that we're open for business, having a more welcoming atmosphere, having a facade program for businesses to change the face of their storefronts so that they can increase their revenues annually. And you only have to go as far as talking to George Joseph at A1 Pizza. He'll tell you he didn't even wait for the facade program. He went ahead and did that investment himself. It was about streetscapes and beautification. And yes, it was about safety. For 30 years, we didn't have a safe connector to NSCC. That was one of the projects that we tackled with regard to that project. And of course, the street redesign in terms of safety, access management, as well as traffic calming redesign was implemented by the province and costed by the province, and that the total cost of that renovation was also borne by the province. So that whole project taken as a whole was a $5 million project for which the town paid less than 10% of that overall project to revitalize and transform our main street so that we can have more success with attracting and retaining our current businesses. Yes, it did become controversial, but I would like to think at the end of the day, we all want a safer street. We have a street that also connects our surrounding municipalities, but it is also a street that connects us as a town. Reeves Street is not just for people and vehicles. Reeves Street is for all the users. It's for kids who are crossing the street to go to school. It's for toddlers and their parents who are traveling Reeves Street maybe to access the daycare. It's about recreation. It's about having a community park on one side and residences on the other. So at the end of the day, I hope what unites us all is that we do have a safer street, and it's a responsibility of council that if the decision is to keep that current design, that we address with the province those 14 items we flagged as safety concerns.
Thanks, Brenda.
Welcome.
Archie, I'm trying to figure out where you stand on the issue of Reeves Street. I watched your appearance on Talil, and I got the sense that you support returning it to 4 lanes. Is that correct?
Thanks for the question, John. Just before I answer that, I just want to make sure that Jason gets some kind of a answer that he's going to accept. I'm not sure if that's possible or not, but anyways. And I don't want him to put words in my mouth either. I'm not talking annex or any of that. I'm talking that we need as a town and a council working together, not as I, but as we, negotiating with the province to impress upon them the importance of the town of Port Hawkesbury as a service area, and that we need help in order to provide those services to the surrounding areas. And you have to think outside the box, and in order to do that, you have to lobby the government as a unit. And it would be we as a council, not I as a mayor, but we as a council. And Reeves Street is, as the mayor has just alluded to, is a problem that seems to have been going on for many years. And it's unfortunately we seem to start stuff and we never seem to finish it. And the Reeves Street process to go to 3 lanes is, from what I can understand, is still a work in progress, and it's become very frustrating for folks. And we need, and throw in the COVID situation where traffic levels really dropped, and now we're into post-COVID traffic, and it's people are frustrated out there, and I understand that, and the plebiscite will give give us some indication on where people want to head with that, the voters in the town of Port Hawkesbury, but there's also people from outside of the town of Port Hawkesbury that are using Reeves Street, and it's very important that we get this thing right and make some decisions. You know, my personal opinion is, I think if we had stayed to 4 lanes and had some smarter traffic lights and some more policing, that we could have achieved a much safer street and work it out. But we started the whole project, and it hasn't, whether it's the provincial government that hasn't, who owns the highway, hasn't continued the process. I can't speak to why that hasn't happened because I wasn't on council, but we have to finish the project, and it's important for the voters of the town of Port Hawkesbury to when they vote in the plebiscite, so we as a council will be able to negotiate with the province. Do we put it back to the way it was, or do the voters of the town of Port Hawkesbury want it to stay the same? But we certainly need a smarter traffic lights.
Thanks, Archie. Jason, really, it's the same question to you. Do you support returning Reeves Street to 4 lanes, and why or why not?
Thanks, John. So we've been discussing Reeves Street my whole term. When I first came on council, they asked me to join the Reeves Street committee to deal with the province because it was a fresh set of eyes, somebody who didn't have any vested interest in it from the start. And for the first year, it went well. We had regular meetings. We brought 14 concerns forward to the province, which we as a council felt if they could fix these 14 concerns, that it was quite possible that the 3 lanes could work efficiently and safely. Unfortunately, for over 2 years, we kept sending letters and meeting requests, and it was falling on dead ears. So eventually, council put a motion on the table to go back to 4 lanes. The purpose of that was not necessarily to go back to 4 lanes. It was to get the attention of the province, which we did. Within 24 hours, we had their first meeting set up. We went to a 2-hour meeting. They sent staff that could not answer a question, couldn't make a decision. So we asked for the people that could make the decisions to come to us. We got that very quickly as well once the plebiscite was announced. The way it sits today, I cannot support the 3 lanes the way it sits today. With the upgrades, there's a very strong possibility that I could support it. At the end of the day, people need to know we do not own this street. The province owns it. We cannot tell the province what we want on Reeves Street. We can suggest it. And my opinion on this whole Reeves Street project is the province is trying to get the council to support it. So that way, if the residents are not happy, the province will say, well, your council approved this. Whether we approve it or not, the province is going to do what the province wants to do. And like I said, I've said it numerous times in public meetings, and I'll say it here for the second time tonight. The way it sits today, I cannot support it. It's not working. We've asked for numerous upgrades. We've asked for large road signs coming up Reeves Street Hill. The province was here Thursday and said they completed that. I drove around Port Hawkesbury 4 times a day. We were told the sign was put up. There's nothing coming up Reeves Street Hill. We've asked for billboard signs, shoulder mount. We've got a little sign, maybe 18 by 18 or 24 by 24 in Dairy Queen. It's been there a month in front of Dairy Queen. I bet you over half of this room hasn't even seen that sign yet. That tells you how effective it is.
Great, thank you. So we're moving into the last area of questions, and since we've got some time left over, I think what we'll do is we'll conclude with a closing statement from each candidate after we do this round of questioning. So this is on leadership, and Brenda, the first is to you. For a number of important votes, you found yourself outnumbered by others on council. Why do you think you've been unable to find consensus among council, and how would you work with a new council to find common ground?
So first and foremost, leadership is about having a positive attitude, and it's about determination, and it's also about collaboration. So despite a variety of, maybe different priorities around a council table, it's important that we get together in the beginning as a council to set those priorities together. So to create a roadmap, if you will, so that there is consensus with each of our council members and also consensus with staff to have things to focus on. And of course, it would be important to bounce all of those priorities to our citizens. We do have a great opportunity now to have those door-to-door conversations. I've already compiled at least half of the conversations that I've had so far. I think I've probably about 65% done the town and created a staff report already, and my plan is to do a second staff report, because everything that we're hearing at doors that's important to you should be in front of a brand new council. And at the end of the day, we serve the people of Port Hawkesbury, and the people of Port Hawkesbury need to see themselves in each one of those priorities. And as a leader, it's my job to work with council and fulfill my role as the mayor in an accountable, open, and transparent way, and I will continue to do that. I provide written reports of all the work that I do to both council and to staff, and they're published online, and I think that that is very important. And I think it's important also to have an open dialogue with our council. Certainly in my time as mayor, we do our agendas together, so our council has the opportunity to add whatever they would like to the agenda so that we are all doing the work that's important to you in a way where we are all sitting at the table as equals. And regardless of how maybe differing priorities or different opinions around the table, it's important that everybody has their ideas heard, and that we always look for ways to collaborate together on the priorities that are important to the citizens of Port Hawkesbury now, but also going into a new term. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Archie, you've said a number of times that you feel the town seems stuck. What specifically do you mean by this, and how would your leadership yield any different results?
Yeah, thanks, John. I get that feeling. I've had it myself, but going door to door. That's what the voters on the doorstep have been telling me. When I ran 4 years ago, the topics on conversation then were Reeves Street, the undeveloped NSCC property, public housing, senior housing, housing for folks that have lived in their homes and owned their homes and want to retire into one level, that type of housing. So many different types of housing, and those are the same topics that we're faced with today. So we've seemed like we've been stuck in neutral here, and if I'm lucky enough to win the mayor's position, that would be my priority to have council to make priorities for development of the Cancel Regional Vocational School property, the housing, developing the waterfront. It just seems that nothing's been done, and that would be my certainly priorities.
Great, thank you. And I will correct myself. We still have housing to cover as a specific issue, so we'll be getting questions on that in a moment. Jason, on leadership, you've been on council for 4 years, and on almost every recorded vote, you voted the same as the mayor frequently. How would your leadership be different?
Thanks for the question. Well, for starters, I vote with the information given. It doesn't matter who votes for or against. But my leadership would be different, as I'm a little more out there, a little more aggressive, loud, and my leadership would be to the town of Port Hawkesbury first. Yes, we have to work with surrounding municipalities, 100%. But Port Hawkesbury has to be, number one, we can't keep being scared to have those tough conversations with surrounding municipalities. We can't be worried about upsetting a surrounding municipality for the betterment of Port Hawkesbury. And I'll use the pool, for example. I took a very firm stance on the pool. Inverness and Richmond County are close to 70% of the user rate. Between the two, they're contributing $27,000. Our tax dollars are paying over $100,000 to keep that pool open, and we need to keep it open. I absolutely refuse to go meet with Richmond County to talk about what we were doing right. If we can't have the hard conversations and we can't lead that, then why are we here? We're elected to have those tough conversations, and we're elected to look out for Port Hawkesbury's best interest. And I'll just touch on the CRVS lot. It's a very smart comment, Archie, because we've been working nonstop. We have an agreement in place, so you would look absolutely brilliant to continue this and walk in and take the credit for the work that the current council has done.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So the next question is on housing, and it's the same question to all three candidates. So Brenda, what do you see as the biggest barrier to housing construction in town, and what have you done or will do to get past this obstacle?
Okay. Well, again, we are the closest level of government. We're the government of proximity to the people that we represent, and we get all those calls for housing and the housing needs. And we get those calls, and some of them are heartbreaking. It's calls from seniors, it's calls from students who are wanting to find housing for school, it's calls from families, it's calls about rent evictions, etc. And we've been doing a tremendous amount of work on the housing file over the past 8 years in terms of housing surveys. We've reached out to developers to talk to developers to figure out, what do we need to do as a municipality to better promote ourselves so that we can encourage and create a more enabling environment for housing and to grow our housing stock all across the housing spectrum. So through the process of all the work that we've done around housing, we've also worked with New Dawn and the Chamber of Commerce in partnership to create a housing strategy. So some of the proactive things that we've done has been around zoning and as Jason mentioned, a development zone as well to create incentives. So that these are kind of the ways that we need to focus on to encourage more development in town. Between the incentives and zoning, better promoting the town to developers. We are seeing the fruit of our labors in terms of all the hard work we've done over the past 8 years. We're seeing some developments on Memorial Drive. We have 16 units that are installed there now that will, in final phases, see 18 units. We have 16 units that are slotted for Macquarie Drive Extension. We are working with New Dawn Enterprises for the first cluster housing project to be seen outside of the CBRM area. I mean, we are moving the needle on housing, and that is extremely important. And I just wanted to also take a quick moment just to make a note of the fact that we have been working so hard over the last 8 years, and it's not just council that we need to credit for the fact that the town is growing. We really need to credit our town staff. They work so hard. We need to credit all of our community volunteers from Port Hawkesbury that sit on all of our community advisory committees, whether it's waterfront, whether it's economic development and housing, whether it's the airport, all of our regional and local committees who work really hard to help us grow the town. It's about all the volunteers from fire protection, all of the volunteers that put on Celtic colors that we're about to enjoy. Everyone that has had a part in helping us grow the town. I feel very bad, and I feel that the comment that we've been stuck in neutral is very dismissive to all the hard work that everyone has been doing.
Thanks, Brenda. Archie, same question to you. What do you see as the biggest barrier to housing construction in town? And what have you done? What will you do to get past this obstacle?
Thanks, John. Just to answer Jason's comment is, as mayor and council, you can't. It would be a wonderful news that if we've got a development going at the Cancel Regional Vocational School, what I hear on the doorsteps the last 3 weeks or a month is there must be an election around. There's paving going on, sidewalk work, and all that kind of stuff. The role of a mayor and council, and I found this in my work with the union, is from day one you have to start doing stuff. You can't wait till the end of the collective agreement or the end of the term to start showing the voters what you've done. You've got to start from day one, and it's if you can't take credit, if I'm a mayor, it's not what I do, it's what we do, and it's so important that we work as a unit. The housing situation, obviously a small town, a service town that we are, we would want to expand. We have to lobby provincial and federal governments to get access to funds to help that. Brenda has alluded to that, there's progress being made, and that's great to hear. But time for studies and talk is over. We have to start building. We should have been building 8 years ago, and it's never too late to start. But we have to start sooner, and we have to start lobbying government and knocking down doors. But you have to do it in the proper way. You can't go pounding your fist and threatening people. You have to do it in a proper way, and I feel I have the ability to do that with the support of a new council, and it's time that the Strait area gets some shovels in the ground.
Thanks, Archie. Jason, same question to you. What do you see as the biggest barrier to housing construction in town, and what have you done or what will you do to get past that obstacle?
Thank you. From the first month I was on council, we started setting up meetings with developers as a council. So the first 2.5 years of this term, at least 2 to 3 developers a month were being met with. We've been calling them. Staff has been calling them. We've put applications in for funding for infrastructure so we can bring new subdivisions to the area. We've rezoned areas very quickly, quicker than any council has in the past, to make things move. And a prime example of that is you look at the old call center. We moved that across with 3 or 4 months. We think outside the box. We have a container house built here. That was a council-driven initiative to the point that Eastern District Planning could not approve that. It was brought to council, and we said, yes, let's go ahead and do it. We're showing day in and day out to developers that we're here, we're ready to listen, we're working with them. We're doing everything we legally can within the MGA. And I understand if you haven't been part of this process and you're on the outside looking in, it may look like not much is being done. We're lobbying the government all the time. Our current council has fantastic ties with the provincial and federal government. We're fortunate that way. We've never been represented on all 3 levels of government as well as we are today. We have so many opportunities. We have funding opportunities coming. Look at the AT trail that we're doing this year. Not a dollar from the towns going in there. Our ball field, not a dollar from the town going in there. And that's because of relationships that the current council has with the provincial government. If we look at all of our AT trails, it's the federal government, the provincial government, with us. It's because of the relationships. It's not because we're trying to bully one or the other. So all we can do right now is we're applying for the funding to put infrastructure in the ground. We're in the process of subdividing another big lot of land to open up new housing development units. We've talked about 3 different subdivisions. If there's any more we can do that we haven't been doing, I'd like to know what it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. So maybe just 2 minutes sort of concluding statements from each of the candidates, and anything you might want to address that others have said to you or about you. And you go ahead, Brenda, if you want to wrap it up and start.
Okay. I guess just before I wrap up, I would like to say that out of the 8 budget deliberations that I was very proud to take part in with our past 2 councils, we have looked at very similar investments in terms of asphalt, sidewalks, and all of our infrastructure work, and where we can, we leverage that money in a very smart way. I'm not sure why there is the opinion that we're only doing those kinds of things on the eve of an election. That is just not true. If you have any questions about that, please go see Erin McCacken, our finance officer. She'll be happy to show you all the capital projects that we've done over the past 8 years, and the same amount of effort was put into those budget deliberations and that growth every single year over the last 8 years. To close, I want to thank everyone for your support over the past 12 years, no matter what the outcome is on October 19th. Of course, I ask for your support. We are growing our town, and it's wonderful because in 2012, when I came on as a councillor, we were very much managing decline and managing stagnation, and now we're in a wonderful opportunity to be managing growth, which comes with a whole other set of obstacles and opportunities. But isn't that wonderful that we do have those obstacles and opportunities as a growing town? We have record, relationships with our surrounding municipalities and other partners. We have amazing relationships with the federal government and with the provincial government. Those relationships are important. I'm always going to be the kind of leader that works the table, that doesn't pound the table. Because if you go into those meetings pounding the table, those people aren't going to want to come to any more meetings with you. And you have to work with every single partner at that table. So it's important that you come and take with you the proper kind of representation and the willingness to collaborate and the willingness to talk things out and to negotiate. So at the end of the day, I am the kind of leader who will never say it's impossible. I'm always going to say, how can we make that possible? And don't take it, and you can use my record as proof of that. I was told we will never have a safe active transportation to NSCC. We'd never have that connector. We have it. I was told in 2019, don't bother. You will like the LNJ airport was in crisis in 2019. I was told you'll never be able to successfully fight for the right of the LNJ McCacken airport, and we accomplished that. So I will always be a determined leader. I will always lead with integrity, and I will always work the table on behalf of the citizens of Port Hawkesbury. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brenda. Archie, any concluding statements from yourself? You got roughly 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you, John. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and Talil for putting this together, and you, John, for being the MC for this. I truly am committed for the town of Port Hawkesbury. Not saying that the current mayor and council aren't committed as well. They're trying their very best. I just feel that I have the ability to work with people to get things done for the town of Port Hawkesbury. I grew up in the country, and you work with your neighbors, and we have to work with our neighbors, our Richmond County, town of Mulgrave, Guysborough County, Inverness County, Port Hastings. We all have to work together to lobby provincial and federal governments. I am not suggesting for one moment that the workers of the town of Port Hawkesbury or all the volunteers aren't doing a wonderful job, but we have to do a better job as a mayor and council to bring stuff to the town of Port Hawkesbury to facilitate our development, to spread the taxes, to increase our tax base, and we have so much to do. This whole town of Port Hawkesbury, the Strait area, has had so much potential over the last 40, 50 years, and we just never seem to expand the way we should have expanded. And a lot of that is not within our control, but a lot of it can be our control, and we have to lobby the federal and provincial governments, and I believe I have the skills and ability to do that, and I only look forward to doing that with whoever the voter of the town of Port Hawkesbury chooses to represent them as for mayor and council. And it would be an honor for me to facilitate that. We've got a lot of work to do, and we've got some issues with our infrastructure, the water and sewer. We've got issues with Reeves Street, but we have to start doing and stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, any concluding comments from yourself? You've got roughly 3 minutes.
Thank you. So let's talk about leadership for a minute, and let's talk about growth. A year ago in May, I went to work for Celtic Air Services to manage a limo service that they had. When I went there, we had 2 vehicles. Today, we have 6, with a 7th being ordered this week. That's great management. That's great growth. That's under my leadership. I'm lucky enough to have a manager or an owner that believes in me and puts the money there for the vehicles, but he's lucky enough to have somebody to grow that business. And I plan on doing the exact same thing here with our council in the town of Port Hawkesbury. We've shown over the last 4 years that we're trying to grow this town. One thing you can guarantee you're going to get from me is I'm going to work hard. It's the same promise I made 4 years ago, and I can sit here and make that promise again today. I can confidently say for the last 4 years, I worked hard. I have no problem rolling up my sleeves, put my work boots on, and going to work. We've had a great team the last 4 years, and we've got a lot accomplished. And it does upset me a little bit to hear that people are saying we're stagnant and nothing's been done. A couple of weeks ago, we showed in our council meeting what was done. There was a lot of work done in these last 4 years. I do want to thank Tal-Il and John, the Chamber, for helping put this on. I want to thank everybody who's come here tonight. The voters at the door have been fantastic, great reception, phenomenal conversation. In closing, I want to wish all candidates the best of luck, and have a good evening.
Thank you. On behalf of everybody here and the voters, putting your name forward is never easy. It's never easy to put yourself out there to scrutiny. So on behalf of myself and my own family, I appreciate the effort, and thank you for being here. And maybe we could give all 3 a round of applause. We have to do a little bit of logistical magic. We don't have curtains to bring down, so you just have to avert your eyes while we transform this to accommodate the candidates for council. Thanks. All right, folks, we're going to get started with the next part of the evening, which is questions to candidates for council. I'll start by introducing them, and then we'll give them a round of applause and get on with the questions. The format is a little bit different because of the number. Each candidate will be asked a question with 2 minutes to answer. I'll indicate when you have a minute left by ringing my glass here, I guess, and all candidates will be asked the same question. The questions haven't been shared. The areas to be covered are economic growth, leadership, and Reeves Street. So I'm just going to go down the line, starting with Ian Langley, Mike Curry, current council member Blaine McQuarrie, Todd Barrett, current council member Mark McIver, Donald McDonald, and Paula Hart. So the first area of question is going to be on economic growth. So the first question goes to Ian Langley. Ian, you can step up to the podium. I'll be asking everybody the same questions I said, but I will repeat the question just so that you won't forget it. Economic growth is not something easily influenced by town council. It seems once again that the Strait area is poised to grow, yet it seems many in our community struggle to connect with these economic opportunities. What can town council do to help residents take full advantage of the region's growing economy?
Thank you for the question, John. In recent months and years, there's been a lot of talk about green energy and its potential for our future as a renewable energy source. And there's many opportunities for both local citizens, enterprises, firms, groups, and those with outside expertise as well. Today in Mulgrave, we have a self-elevating platform that's destined to work in the U.S. Northeast in support of a renewable energy sector there. When it departed Europe, the most sensible port for it to come to get offloaded was in the Strait of Canso, and there are several firms there from the local area mobilizing to support that project for the U.S. Renewable energy sector. So the Chamber of Commerce can be one source of an agency to help direct and local firms to make them aware of the opportunities that exist in that sector. The Cape Breton Partnership would be another organization that could help ready firms to get ready for this new energy sector, as well as the Municipal Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. So same question to you, Mr. Curry. Economic growth is not something easily influenced by town council. It seems that the area is getting ready to grow, but it seems many in our community struggle to connect to those opportunities. What do you think town council can do to help residents take full advantage of this, this growing economy?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. To answer your question, I think we need council to try harder to think more innovatively. So we need people to try to get their ideas to market. And for example, that might be convincing local businesses to put solar panels and battery energy storage systems on their businesses. Just think of whatever business comes to mind if you're a business owner. Well, everyone has been talking about green. Well, how come there's no solar panels on any businesses in town? Stuff like that. So I think we need to look at innovation in order to grow our economic development, and that leads into things such as affordable housing, which is almost non-existent, and like there's people stepping up, they're doing great things, they're building houses, but we also need affordable housing, which is almost non-existent. So we need We need more things like youth programs in town. We need, I'm pretty big on the affordable housing thing, so it kind of slides into that. But, you know, there might be a lot of seniors who have big homes. They want to move into a smaller home. And, you know, the only way to cut down housing costs would be to build a smaller home. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Same question to you, Blaine. Economic growth isn't easily influenced by town council, but it seems that the area is poised to grow. But as you know, going door to door, that it seems many people in our community struggle to connect with economic opportunities. What can town council do to help residents take full advantage of the growing economy?
Thank you, John. The answer to that is partly in your question. The municipalities are in a difficult place, really, to encourage economic development. The one thing that we can do, and successful municipalities have followed this, is to make sure when a potential developer comes to the community and expresses an interest in doing a development, that we make sure we welcome them with open arms, that our town staff is receptive to working with them. Our Eastern District Planning Commission works with them around planning issues. The two projects that has been discussed here already that are very positive projects is the 80-unit modular development that Jeremy Carroll is pursuing, as well as R.J. McDonald's Home Hardware. Our staff and the Eastern District Planning Commission work very diligently to get those bylaws, development changes approved in a matter of 2 to 3 months, whereas in the past it's taken up to 6 months. So I think that's the best, one of the better things that the municipality can do is just to make sure that we're receptive and accommodating as best we can. Thank you.
Todd, again, the same question to you. Economic growth is a challenge for town council to address, but it does seem that our economy is poised to grow, yet many in the community might struggle to connect to this growth. What things do you think town council can do to help residents take full advantage of the growing economy?
Thank you. Well, you need to work with developers, whether that's through zoning, and encourage growth. The more business means more opportunities for everybody, whether it be that employment or drawing people to the area to shop, which means more attraction to people to come to Port Hawkesbury. Another segment that we do need to pay attention to is, we have a large part of the population, over a quarter of us are over 65. We need to pay attention to that and attract some development for affordable housing for this segment. Ground level accommodations, smaller size for these people, and that opportunity enables that person to stay in the community. Plus, it opens up a house for more, families to come to the area and take that household that may be getting a little too big for that person to look after. All righty. Thank you.
Mark? Again, the same question to you, that growth is not something influenced very easily by town, but it seems that the region is poised to grow, but many in the community struggle to connect to this growth. What do you think that town council can do to help residents take full advantage of the growing economy?
Thank you for the question, and good evening. Economic development is very important to Port Hawkesbury and very important to the Strait region. Large industry, which is very hard to attract, which we worked hard on with the green energy. First introducing, council is boots on the ground. If they come to see us, we try to bring them to provincial and federal government agencies and ministers that can help them through
their process, and we've been very successful in the last 4 years with that. Bringing larger industry is good for us to keep our young people at home. As was mentioned, our population is aging, and it's nice to have more people come in with young families that supports our schools. Also, large business will support your smaller business, your mom and pop businesses, which then will create employment for other members of the community. I think the council has done a tremendous job in the last 4 years of trying to attract business and industry, and which is very good for the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Donald, while you make your way up there, I'll ask the question again. Just growth is not something easily influenced by town council. It seems that the region is poised to grow, but it seems many in our community struggle to connect to these economic opportunities. What do you think council could do to help residents take full advantage of the growing economy?
Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody out this evening. Two things come to mind with regards to economic development. One of them would be to build a database of readily available resource and assets. So when the opportunity arises, we're positioned to help these developers out. This can be done in partnership with new or existing agencies that are available to us. The second part of this would be the communication phase. So our youth and our possible employees are kept up to date and informed as to what's taking place. Could be on a twice-a-year newsletter or a dedicated Facebook page, but that's the two items that come to mind for me. It's the database and communications. Thank you.
Thanks, Donald. So, Paula, I'll give you a chance to get up there and ask the question again. The economic growth is not something easily influenced by town council, but it seems we are poised to grow, yet it seems many of our community members struggle to connect to these opportunities. What do you think town council could do to help residents take full advantage of the growing economy?
Good evening, everyone. It's hard to be original with the diversity of the table. I guess my green suit will outstand that, but economic growth is the well-being, basically, and ultimately the well-being and growth of a community. And we need substantial growth behind that and a base and foundation. And we have that with our existing council. We have that with our chamber. We have the support of committees. We have it with policing, with our recreation. We have lots of ultimate potential. And I think to grow and to move forward, we have to expand new businesses, which will promote new jobs. We have to promote and build and help support existing businesses. And we have to move forward with these investments in our community to grow and to give the benefit of the doubt that this can happen. And ultimately, we have to depend on provincial government. We have to depend on our existing municipal neighboring governments. We have to, once again, our chamber with their support, and ultimately, again, the support from our community. You guys have valued comments that and valued interest in our community that we have to take heed on listening to what you guys want. So I think that'll help us grow economically.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So the next area of questioning is the ever-popular Reeves Street. And we'll start with Ian. This is a two-part question, so maybe give a two-part answer. But how do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? That's That's the first part of the question. The second part is, do you think major issues facing town should be addressed through plebiscites?
John, I think that's an excellent question, but I think I answered the first one very, very poorly, and I'm sure the people in the audience do too. So I want to just expand upon that a little bit. My background in economic development in Port Hawkesbury started as a franchise owner of a Dickie D ice cream back when I was 15 years old. And I see some challenges with small business owners that I think they could use some help from that experience. Also, when Councillor McIver talks about when developers come to town, they direct them to provincial and federal agencies. I was on an economic development committee in this municipality, and when a developer came to town, there was no regulatory pathway for him to create his enterprise. I was a founding member of an organization that lobbied government successfully so there could be offshore wind in this province, and the Senate of the federal government just supported that law, so they're enjoying federal waters. Now, the second question you just asked me, how do I plan to vote on
Reeves Street?
Yeah, simple. And I said it in the interview from Tel Hill. I'm guided by safety. And there was a presentation made here last week with statistics, data that shows which is safer. And there was the staff sergeant for this town in here, and he supported those statistics. And I will vote with the safest street possible. The statistics don't lie. And there's improvements that can be made to that street, and I'll work hard as a councillor to ensure that the efficiencies are made. And the second part to this question?
Do you think plebiscites are a good way to make decisions?
On important decisions,
Great.
I think the plebiscite that we have today is something that could be managed within council. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Mike, same question to you. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite on Reeves Street and why? And do you think major issues facing town should be addressed through plebiscites? Oh, and sorry, just for clarification, when I ding the glass, you still have a minute. Okay? Just, it's not last call, it's next to last call.
Sorry, I had a lot of good things to say there. I'll back that up. So whenever you have a referendum or a plebiscite and you want people to be informed before they make a decision, and you also want to see how the town feels about it. And safety is very important, but it might not be the only factor. And what we have to do, we have to listen to the community, the people that drive those roads every day. I know there's a lot of people that come through. And I spend a lot of time on that street as a local business owner. I drive up and down that street all the time, and I talk to a lot of people. And of course, you know, safety is definitely going to be one of the top considerations, but also what the people want, it matters too. And a lot of people, I think, so I still got a minute left then. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, I know a lot of people want that street to go back to 4 lanes. I don't know if that's quite the answer. I actually think somewhere in the middle is the answer. I was also here looking at those boards, and there might be a little bit of work we need to do there. But one day I seen someone drive right down the middle of that street. I saw them drive right down the middle every turning lane, and they went all the way through Reeves Street, right down to the bottom of the hill. So just because the boards say that's safe, that's the safest thing to do, doesn't mean that it is, because some people aren't just going to follow the rules anyway, and that's a whole other issue altogether there. But I still have a lot of people to talk to yet and get the feel for that. I kind of like, I like the idea of flashing green lights.
Great, thanks.
Every city I ever lived in, and I lived in a lot of cities all around the world, we always had flashing green lights anyway.
Thank you. So Blaine, same question to you. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? And do you think major issues facing the town should be addressed through plebiscites?
So with 2 parts, does that mean we have 4 minutes? Or?
Sure.
No. Anyhow, where would I be casting a vote in the plebiscite? At this point in time, I would be voting for the 4 lanes. And the reason I say that is just because of the frustration I've had as a council member for the last 2 years, not as Councillor Coyne mentioned himself when he was up here, not getting any response from the province for the numerous issues that were identified. 2 years ago, there was a list of 14 things. If Public Works had been serious about making this project successful, they would have made some effort to address those issues. And to date, aside from putting that small sign up at the Dairy Queen, they haven't done anything to do that. So that's my frustration, and that's why I'll be voting for the 4 lanes. The second part of the question is, do we think plebiscite should be used?
Plebiscite should be used to make major decisions for the town?
So in this case, there's a plebiscite, but it is not being used to make a decision for the town. The plebiscite is simply to give the residents of the town of Port Hawkesbury an opportunity to express their opinion on Reeves Street. That's for the province of Nova Scotia to take into consideration when they make decisions going forward, because as it's been said before, Reeves Street is not a town street, it's the provincial government street. So it's not for a town political or policy decision, John.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Same question for you, Todd. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? And do you think major issues facing town should be addressed through plebiscites?
Well, I have the same frustration as everybody else with the congestion. You know, slowing the traffic through town is not a bad thing. It's, but I agree with a lot of, you know, going door to door, the frustration at certain times, the congestion. But the thing is, they're not done with Reeves Street. There is improvements to be made to lighting and to help with the congestion. So, you know, I am for moving in that direction. So that's you know, I agree with that. But as far as the plebiscite and important decisions, you know, on decisions that we can't control, yes, I agree with important decisions, but things like the Reeves Street, where it is a provincial road, not so much. You know, I can get it for getting an understanding of what the town wants, but yeah, but as far as very, you know, important decisions, for sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Mark, same question for you. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? And do you think major issues facing town should be addressed through plebiscites?
Thank you, John. As the street is presented today, I would be voting no. For the reason is we had 14 safety issues, and they were safety issues, to the province. And very frustrating, letters to the province, no answers, until finally there was a motion made to turn it back. Well, that motion served its purpose, because the following day we had an answer from the province that Public Works were on their way down to meet with us. Those people couldn't answer any of our questions. We then met with the Deputy Premier of Public Works, and he got a sense of what frustration we had as a council with the street, because it's the council members that are getting the complaints from the residents of the tie-ups. And I'm on Reeves Street 2 or 3 times a day, and I see issues that are happening that aren't safe, like driving down the center of the road, trying to get to their turn-offs earlier when traffic is backed up. It's frustrating. If we can get these things corrected, then maybe it could work. I know our fire department has issues with it. When the traffic is backed up, some of our members can't get to the department. Where do we put our trucks going down the center with traffic backed up? We've talked with Public Works about timing on the lights to allow traffic to move a little faster on Reeves Street. And the big thing with it is the number 4 highway. The government spent millions of dollars on that, and it's a nicer drive now than coming up the 105. So we're getting a lot of traffic coming out of Sydney, coming up that road. And I don't think our local have a problem getting around on it because they know it, and the signage was an issue. It's because of our tourists and people that don't know the area. If you're not a courtesy, you know, when you're driving, if you're not courtesy with the driver next to you, he's tied out into the center lane. He has to come into the Civic Center when he comes to the lights.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
That's your time.
A minute?
Yeah, no, you had your minute. But I'll give you 2 seconds to answer on
Sorry,
the plebiscite.
guys. Time's up.
Did you have something on, did you want to address the plebiscite?
thank you very much.
Okay, great. Over to you, Donald. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? And do you think major issues facing the town should be addressed through plebiscites?
Hello again. I will be voting no on the plebiscite. At this point, I believe the proposed changes that the Public Works is offering will address the safety issues that have been highlighted. I think everybody wants progress, but it's hard to accept the change. And if you've driven anywhere else in this great country of ours, I think you'll see that we could make this work. As far as the plebiscite on important business for the area, should we be using them all the time? I can see the value in it, especially when it's an important item like the Reeves Street question that seems to be on everybody's mind. Thank you. Mark,
Thanks.
you want my extra minute?
Thanks, Donald. Paula, the same question to you. How do you plan to vote in the plebiscite and why? And do you think major issues facing town should be addressed via plebiscites?
I keep my values to myself, and my bottom line is not my concern right now. It is the community's concern, and I believe that the plebiscite was brought forward to give value to the community, to let them decide, and maybe the concerned provincial government will take notice to the concerns that the community has. As a professional bus driver, I am on Reeves Street multiple times with an excess of 70 children. Most of you drive maybe with a max of 5 capacity in your car. So my ultimate concern is safety. I think with, drive there safely, not fastly. I think all of us can take some time to realize that safety is first. I believe with some of the changes that they might evaluate and make things better and more accessible and more useful for town. And basically, I think ultimately we have to take into the professional's point of view, and hopefully that, professional engineers and the province will make the best decision for our community and hold us at heart, and the plebiscite will ultimately give the town their valued opinion, and hopefully that'll come to light, and hopefully that we can move on, and that this will be put to rest, and that we can move on to bigger and better things and be done with Reeves Street. Thank you.
Great. The last area that we're going to talk about tonight is on leadership. So, Ian, I'm sure going door to door, you've heard about many concerns of residents, taxation, state of our roads, housing, and many more. But what is the one area you would like to focus on if you were elected to council? And how would your leadership style experience help you achieve your goal in this area?
Thank you for the question. John, at about 1,450 electors' doors knocked at, so a little over halfway, and there's a lot of concerns. Taxation is one of the top ones, along with housing. And it's not just taxation, it's taxation and level of services. And if our current residential tax base and commercial tax base does not grow, the cost to maintain our services will outpace the revenue. And that's very concerning. So that's one of the top priorities for me. What was the second part of your question?
So if that's the area you'd like to focus on, how would your leadership style experience help you achieve your goal in that area?
Yeah, so economic growth is the way, we need to grow our tax base, both residentially and commercially, and through growth is the only way that we can do that. There's been some, issues around growing, and it was mentioned in the last forum, if there's a way that we could find out to grow it that hasn't been mentioned yet. I think if the Municipal Governance Act is handcuffing us and doesn't allow us to incentivize the way we potentially could, then we need to seek changes within that act. Going door to door, I've noticed that there's other concerns, and leadership is not just, I'm having a rough time here right now. Okay. Excuse me.
Thanks, Ian. So, Mike, same question to you. Going door to door, you've heard many concerns of residents. What is one area you would like to focus on, and how would your leadership style help you achieve your goal in that area?
Well, I think if we can avoid raising taxes with the increasing population, that should be a very doable thing. And I think ladies and gentlemen, I have a very adaptable leadership style. My previous experience, I had to work for many leaders all over the world, and I had to be very adaptive, or I wouldn't have lasted that as long as I did in that job. So in order to be a good leader, you also have to be a good follower first. And I believe I've proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I will work for this town to try to make, increase our population, and with the focus being on affordable homes. And we also need to attract new industry to the area. I still got a minute, right? Okay, good. So we need to attract new business to the area. I can't build the homes. I want to build the homes, but I can't build the homes. And, obviously, if a home is, say, $200,000, well, what if we cut the size of the home in half? Technically, that's half the home would be half the cost, right? I know it's a little more complicated than that. And, but the more we build, the cheaper that can also get. And we have a lot of people in the surrounding area that can help us do things like that to help grow the area. But we need to use innovative ideas and ways to attract more business to the area. An idea of innovative businesses would be YouTube, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, affordable homes. That would be another innovative business. And anyway, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming out. Thank you very much.
So, Blaine, the same question to you. I'm sure you've heard about the many concerns of residences. What is one area that you would like to focus on if re-elected to council, and how would your leadership style experience help you achieve your goal in that area?
So I first ran for council in 2018, and going around the community door to door at that time, the one refrain that I was hearing regularly was about the housing shortage, and for all types of housing, market housing, affordable housing, accessible housing, and housing for seniors. So I went to the council table with that, and our council back in 2019 set priorities, and housing was one of them. 2020 came along pretty quickly. We hadn't accomplished very much, and I kind of feared going door to door again because I wasn't going to be able to tell people what we delivered on. Anyhow, I heard it again. Now this time, going door to door, I feel very positive about, certainly with Jeremy Carroll, that 80-unit studio apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, 3-bedroom apartment development for the town of Port Hawkesbury is just phenomenal. We have a potential project with New Dawn from Sydney to do a housing project here in Port Hawkesbury. We just met with them as recently as last Friday. They've been meeting with us for the last year and a half. I'm very hopeful about that. The Chamber of Commerce in conjunction with the town of Port Hawkesbury and Richmond County, are working on the development of our own not-for-profit for housing, which is something that we sorely need because we're missing out on accessing provincial and federal funding. And another issue that we could be looking at around this housing is exploring the possibility of setting up a cooperative housing project. The second part of the question was what characteristics?
Yeah, just how would your leadership experience help
Yeah.
you achieve those
Well,
goals?
not so much necessarily my leadership experience, just my way of functioning with people on committees and whatnot. I like to be cooperative. I like to listen to what people have to offer, what people's opinions are. I like to digest information to inform my own opinion. I like to be respectful of people. And for this particular issue, I have a passion about it. And I think that's, when you think about leadership, that's one of the strengths. If you have a passion about a particular subject, that's going to help you succeed.
Great,
Thank you.
Todd, same question to you. I'm sure you've heard about the many concerns of residents. What is one area that you would like to focus on if you were on council, and how would your leadership style experience help you achieve your goal in that area?
Well, one common thing going door to door high up was affordable housing for seniors, and it kind of hits home even with my parents. If there was a place locally in the town that would have, they ended up moving to Bible Hill, it would have been something local for them. So it kind of hits home, and we need that growth. And I think just from my years of experience running a business for the last 23 years, you know, and my dedication to hard work and working with others and attracting more development, just to, you know, attract these facilities for these people, you know, just my... and we just want to see the town grow. And to me, it's just, I've known nothing but to work hard. Being a first time running as a councillor, I know there's going to be a learning curve, but you know, with my education and my years of experience, I know I can, in my heart, Port Hawkesbury is a beautiful place, and we just want to make the place a better place for all of us to live and to attract more people to come to the area to stay. Thank you.
Thanks. So Mark, same question to you. I'm sure you've, in your role as councillor and talking to voters, you've heard about many concerns from residents. What is one area that you would like to focus on, and how would your leadership style or experience help you achieve the goal in that area?
Thank you for the question. I guess this October marks 20 years that I've served on council and serve the people of Port Hawkesbury. And the big thing is to be open, approachable, answer phone calls, try to help whenever you can. The biggest thing I think that I would like to follow through with is housing, and we have to open up more lands for that, and we're planning to open up more in the subdivision, the newer subdivision towards Tamarack, to create lots for homes and affordable homes, maybe seniors' homes is a big thing. I've seen a lot of changes in Port Hawkesbury over those 20 years. We have the Shalom House, we have the courthouse, we have the tech school, we have the Civic Center. There's been a lot over my time that we've done, and the subdivision, of course. And if we can expand on that and increase our housing and grow our population, we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks. Donald, same question to you. You've heard about the many concerns of residents going door to door. What is one area that you would like to focus on, and how would your leadership style experience help you achieve the goal in this area?
Thank you, John, for the question and for moderating this evening, and to Talil. Integrity and resiliency, I think, are two components of leadership. I believe I have those. And I would like to think that if I could couple them together with my sales and management experience, and use this to drive marketing our town and the region to the two other levels of government, plus your private developers. This would be a way of driving the economic development for the area. I sit on the Business Development and Housing Committee for the town as a volunteer. I see us doing good things, and I think we just need to sell ourselves more to these developers and government agencies, and hopefully they will come on board and see what we can produce. Thank you.
And Paula, again, to you, I'm sure you've heard about many of the concerns of residences as you've been going door to door and talking to residents. What is one area that you would like to focus on, and how would your leadership style experience help you achieve your goal in this area?
I'm going to echo a quote, and if anybody guesses who says it, they have to vote for me. You don't have to be anybody special. You just have to be something that no one else is. And I feel I have those qualities. I have great courage, I have decisiveness, I have resilience, I have empathy, I have courage, and I have great working skill. I am passionate about the people of Port Hawkesbury. I ultimately have them in my heart. My leadership skills are just about learning from the people and directing my abilities to council, which is going to be my job, ultimately. In terms of, sorry, John?
The area that you'd like to focus on?
Oh, absolutely. Housing for seniors is ultimately no mystery to anyone here. We are direct, and everybody has the same knowledge of what's happening. I have personally been up to see Brela Homes, so brela.ca if you're interested in seeing them, with Kayla and Jeremy, and I had a great conversation, and we are so lucky to have that and progressing. I'm also, my mother is dear to my heart, and seniors and committees to help them. My mother is fortunate to have us. There's lots of seniors that I'm hearing out there that don't have anyone. They don't have anyone to help them with even any of the fundings from the government. They don't know anything about that. We have to make everybody aware of what's available for seniors in town. We have to be able to help them. We have to communicate with them and find out what we can do as a community and committees possibly to help them through with that. And the waterfront is huge on my agenda. I just see so much development there and so much potential that I feel like we're wasting away in the limelight, and we could be so much forward thinking with the waterfront, and I think we should really focus on something like that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And thanks to all the candidates, again, to put your name forward, to be willing to have your neighbors scrutinize you and judge you. It takes great courage. So I thank all of you, again, on behalf of my own family and the business in the region for having such a great slate of candidates to step forward. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. I'm sure it'll be enthralling, engaging television for those that weren't able to be here tonight. But again, I can't thank Talil enough. I think it's an important public service that they offer our community by sharing the ideas and thoughts that we've heard here tonight. And I thank everybody for coming out, and enjoy the evening. Thanks.